Good morning. I would like to apologize for these technological delay we've been suffering from, but we'll resume. This panel session is just a presentation of the results of the progress project in each of the countries, or regarding each of the participating countries. And well, we'll have some time for questions in the end. And let's start. We've first asked Ms. Elspeth Gibson, who was the coordinator of the project, to speak first. She's coming from Public Health Suffolk, from the Shire of Suffolk. She works for the local health agency, and she will be talking to us about the nature of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Antonio. It's been a very interesting journey. The journey of our Progress project started probably 3 years ago, when we put out a partner search to Europe, and we had over 50 different institutions and countries respond, all interested in this aspect of how we could promote healthy and active aging in Europe. From those 50 applicants, we shortlisted 5 countries that we wanted to work with. One would be the United Kingdom, one would be Spain, Italy, Denmark and Germany, because we felt that these particular partners understood what we were trying to achieve. And what we were trying to achieve was to get into an earlier age group, 45 plus, and think about changing the way in which that group of people and that population, or target population, behave in their day-to-day, daily habits. Not everybody that we were going to be spending time observing was going to be in employment. Some people may be carers, living at home, providing support to elderly or younger relatives. Some people may have suddenly lost their jobs due to redundancy, possibly created by the economic crisis. So we were interested in a whole population of people, but we were also interested in the opportunities that the employer had to make an impact on people's health and well-being in the workplace, and how that impact would in turn have an effect on those individuals' families and relatives and their wider community. So we set out on this journey officially 2 years ago. Our funding started on the 1st of December 2011, and at the end of December the project comes to an end. And we're now, and you will hear from each of the countries, short presentations about their results. What have they found out? What have they learnt? And how are we sharing that information with you today? What are the main elements that make an impact, not just in the wider environment? We've heard a lot about that in the talks this morning, about the impact of the wider environment, but also in the day-to-day lives of these individuals. Have we changed people's habits? Have we helped people become more physically active? And just briefly, in the United Kingdom, we found out that only 23% of our working age adults are involved in anything like the daily activity that they need in order to stay healthy. So we're actually talking about less than a third of people currently behaving in those ways. So what could the workplace do to promote more healthy, active aging in all aspects? It's been a very interesting journey, and now we're getting to the results, and that too is exciting. But also we're starting perhaps from the null hypothesis of, has this program had any effect? Has it made a difference to people and their lives? And I think the opportunities that's come out of this program in terms of the transnational learning has been fantastic. The opportunities that we had in April to visit Copenhagen, to understand in Denmark, as a quick example, in Denmark the recommendation is 7 lots of physical activity a week. Not 5 as in the UK, but 7, on the basis that the Danes are quite sensible because they think about the psychology of the human being and say, well, if you say do 7, people might do 5. You know, this is actually quite good psychology, good thinking, to say nothing of the infrastructure that our colleagues in Denmark enjoy in terms of the physical environment that we're very envious about from the UK, because we just create more barriers in the United Kingdom to people doing physical activity than actually enablers. So we've had many opportunities to share learning and understanding and look at the cultural differences between our countries and the different environments we operate in. But just briefly, just to hear from the previous speaker about the alcohol industry in Spain, only 2 weeks ago the group of us from the United Kingdom were in a room with colleagues meeting with a local brewery company in Suffolk, Adnams, which is a very popular local beer. And we were meeting with that company about an alcohol strategy for Suffolk. How could we help people to be more responsible drinkers and reduce the impact of drinking and its negative effects in the environment? So we're all, I think what's striking me about this transnational work is how similar our experiences are. We're actually working with a similar demography and a similar group of people and a similar group of industries. And we're actually in parallel ways having the same conversations in each of our countries. So I think the next part of the session now, to hear the learning, will be useful to all of us to hear the learning, but we need to be aware that there are some quite considerable cultural differences and approaches in each of the countries. So we take account of those. So I'll now pass over to Emma to outline in the next 10 minutes or so the results of the Spanish work.
Okay, thank you.
Desarrollado en España. Muchas gracias, Albert. En los próximos. Thank you, Albert. In the next few minutes, the coordinator will be telling to us the results, the setup, and the approach developed around the Progress project here in Andalusia. Thank you, Antonio and Albert. I'd like to explain to you the results of the project here in Andalusia, and I'm going to focus around 5 items which were the ones defined as the main axis of this project. And I will speak about that, healthy aging in Andalusia and in Spain, the main objectives of the project as we define them here in Andalusia. And I'm going to describe very briefly for you the preliminary results we achieved, because then you will see that we did a very extensive assessment, and I will show to you some of the results we had. And finally, I would like to give you a series of recommendations of results. With regards to context, Spain is located around a series of indicators on what good life is. It's a source of information which is used by the OECD in order to see how the different countries are placed around very important aspects in terms of well-being and quality of life of people. And Spain is in a very acceptable position. We're among the 20 countries which are in the upper levels with regards some of the indicators analyzed. 11 different subjects were analyzed and which were considered to be as more closely related to well-being and a good quality of life. One of the indicators which appeared to be positive in the case of Spain are those having to do with health. Our scoring, which is up to 8.6 out of 10 points, and these indicators is built taking into account aspects of health which have got to do with life expectancy, perceived health, and other indicators. So it's a kind of synthetic indicator which is reached after a synthesis process. And with regards to the indicator of life expectancy expectancy is 82 years old, which is 2 years above the European average, and it's quite higher in the case of women, a little bit smaller in the case of men. And this progress, this addition of years, the life expectancy indicator is drawn from the average years of life people have, means in our case that life expectancy was prolonged in Andalusia and Spain. In this diagram we're showing you data from the very first records, these records which were started in the UK. The UK enjoys a long tradition in terms of counting on accurate recordings of such elements of such areas of knowledge. And Andalusia was the life expectancy was around 45 years, around the 30s. It was a figure which was very marked by the Civil War, and now, of course, you will see that the progress was incredible. The green line is ours. Our life expectancy by 2000 was very similar to that in other developed countries such as the UK, Japan, France, and Switzerland. And these elongation or prolonging of the working life has changed. Of course, the demographic bell has changed. Our population is much older, and this is reflected in the fact that the working population is older, and it will grow older with time. For example, by 2011, a fourth, about 25% of the population was older than 50 years of age, and by 2040 about 45% of the working population will be above 50 years of age. And also, depending on the activity sector, this percentage may be bigger, even bigger, and the consequences of it will be more markedly affected. And this led us to thinking how to approach plans and policies, how plans and policies would approach this situation. For a long time, a series of policies confronting this situation were planned, but they did not just take into account working policies, but were much more focused on the retirement age and the retirement policies. But right now this is not what is in the minds of the European Union leaders, but also it's known that it's not very much viable because the general population is becoming older with time. And with these I want to say that at the national scale we are thinking of reforms which are aimed towards prolonging the retirement age or making the retirement age grow. It's now 67 years in Spain. But the fact is that this higher or bigger life expectancy does not go hand in hand with that growth of our indicators in terms of life expectancy, and which include or take into account other factors having to do with the quality of life. For example, years enjoying good health or years without suffering from a chronic disease. If we take into account life expectancy in Spain and Andalusia, it is around 57 years. So from 50, when people are starting in the 57, I'm feeling some pressure with regards to timing. Anyway, people start suffering when they are 57, start suffering from difficulties, from problems, and this means that the aging of population is for us a a challenge. We believe is one of the most significant strategic challenges our society has, and this takes place in a very specific social and political context, which is very much influenced by both shadows and sunny aspects. We're going through both a social and economic crisis affecting both Spain and other countries in our environment. This economic crisis is limiting the portfolio of public services offered. Labour reforms are leading the way towards increasing the retirement age, and in the Andalusian context, I would like to say that there's a series of health provision and social services which are being very determinedly fought for by the regional government. There's a certain tradition in terms of the development of strategies, plans and programs which can help reaching that objective, which would be healthy aging. And these would be some of the challenges we have thought of, or we had put on our agenda. Another asset we count on is that of the level of social cohesion that is already been mentioned. Another indicator dealt with by the OECD is that of social participation and the perception of social cohesion. I didn't want to forget that, apart from speaking about public services, and in that context, this context is characterized by this situation in terms of health, and also in terms of stronger points. We thought of a series of objectives which have got to do with how we can have a positive influence on our healthy aging, mainly by reducing risk factors, promoting and helping people adopt healthy habits, also ensuring that good working conditions and living conditions are enjoyed, also by protecting the most vulnerable population sectors of the population. And we became involved in the Progress project, of course framed in this context, and we thought of new initiatives to be deployed in other workplace. For example, we wanted first to identify the kind of intervention which could be deployed, the kind of impact these interventions could have, and also that they had a direct impact in healthy habits. The methodology we followed meant designing a 2-year research program, and the methodology we followed combined qualitative and quantitative techniques. The first objective, in terms of looking into good quality criteria of the programs, was meant using a Delphi technique. In order to produce the evidence on the success of the program, we showed a series of measures which were put in place previously prior to the program and after the program. We may see that there are enough scientific evidence in terms of how positive these programs are in terms of the target population becoming more active and following healthier habits. When designing the program, we count on the help of the University of Granada, also specialists in healthy diets and specialist experts in another component we wanted to integrate, because we believe it to be a key factor, a key axis in terms of healthy aging, and it is which is related to the more psychological side, the issue of in the management of emotions and the designing of targets and personal challenges. Our program integrated these three components, components which was oriented towards achieving better fitness. We designed a series of different workshops which were being implemented for groups classified as per the initial evaluation in the program. A component in terms of healthy diets, in terms of workshops, and also a component, a mental component, through the implementation of workshops on full awareness and attention paid to the current context. What we first did was to set up a managerial board to which we invited people with different executive levels and executive responsibilities. We did also an initial evaluation, and at that initial evaluation helped us classifying people according to different groups, and also helped us to lead people to specific workshops. And at each of the working centers, the different job places, we customized the interventions depending on the target population, and then we started the interventional phase by using an online platform. These were the measures we adopted. We've carried out a process and result assessment in terms of habits and health condition, and we did the assessment both at the beginning and at the end of the process. For most of the indicators, the measures were similar, with the exception of reasons why one would remain inactive or would not lead a healthy diet. The program was offered to 260 people out of 10 different working places. The results I'm going to show you correspond to 8 working places. For some of them we've just received the final evaluation, and for some of them we are still doing the process, and we've got results from 169 people who participated both at the beginning and at the end. Even if we had a bigger population at the very beginning, in the end we've got some 600 questionnaires fulfilled. But of course we selected people and did an intervention which was adapted to the contexts, and the presence of women is more marked, and with regards to ages, we classified it into older than 45 and younger than 45, and most of the people had an average age in between those two margins. And these are the preliminary results. With regards healthy diet, the program, the people participating in the program, we found that they significantly used, with a statistical significance below 0.5%, they eat more fruit, veggies and water. And we've measured it through a Mediterranean diet questionnaires, and we've done an analysis both of the dietary questionnaire, and each of the individual forms of diet. You've got the improvement percentages we've reached for each of the parameters, and what we'll try and do will be to facilitate the presentation, because I would like to show you these data. And also with regards diets, there's been a change in terms of the patterns of adherence to diet, and this is very much aligned with what we know in terms of experts in this field. And it is that the Mediterranean diet pattern needs more interventions which take into account the long run. They've worked for 2 years, so there's a change, but it cannot be seen as early at this time. I'd also like to highlight that at the beginning of the program we asked people which were the main reasons why adopting a healthy diet was so difficult, and the lack of time was shown as one of the most important factors. And also we've analyzed the impact, the influence of this intervention in the sedentary pattern, or sedentarism pattern. We analyzed the activity levels. We've seen that the differences are not statistically significant, but there was a reduction in terms of the group between the younger than 45 and the older than 45 groups before and after the program. So there's actually a difference in terms of the physical activity levels. And we also found that in many cases the lack of time is identified as one of the main problems. It seems to be one of our main problems in general terms in society. We've got other variables in terms of self-perceived health, but I would like to introduce to you these results by using the SC12 questionnaire, which is a standardized questionnaire. Its power is that it's standardized for the Spanish population, and is also an international kind of questionnaire, so it will allow us to compare the results, the findings, with the rest of countries. We found that the SC12 questionnaire has got a physical and an emotional component. In terms of perceived physical health, we find that there's an improvement which is significant, both in men and women, and according to different levels of result. And these are the results we have. As the main conclusion, I would like to tell you that the multi-component systems work in different working places. We've used a variety of sensors in order to see if there was a difference depending on the kind of sector of industry between men and women, and there are indicators in the terms of diet, because there's an improvement in the level of activity, and also in terms of the perceived health condition. I'd like to tell you that also doing a secondary assessment in order to see values are maintained would be very important, and also going deeper into the factors themselves. In that sense, we would put forward the gender factor as one element which would help us deploy more perfected interventions, also in terms of the level of participation.
The lack of time, analyzing how to incorporate these, etc. It is a short intervention, and it is worth enhancing this. And that's all basically. Thank you all. Thank you for those who participated in the project. They carried out evaluation, and I want to thank the whole of the team for the work. That's all. Thank you. Katia Corona from the Italian Olympic Committee is going to tell us the Italian experience on progress. The next speaker is Anton Petrenko and Mette Andersen.
Vienen de la Universidad de Zeeland en Dinamarca y mientras arregla la otra presentación van a presentar ellos.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you very much. I will share this presentation with Anton, my colleague. I'm Mette Andresen. I'm a researcher in gerontology and an occupational therapist. And hopefully I can find my presentation here. So, no? Could someone please help me?
That's the one.
Yeah, it's the one, but I have to show it from the beginning. Yeah. Thank you. So, I will go directly to the case. I don't have any demographics or statistics, but just go to the presentation of the methods and the results regarding the interventions. We have divided our presentation, Anton and I, in two. I will take care of the interventions, which had a qualitative design, and Anton will take over and talk about the quantitative part of this. So the overall aims of the Danish intervention you see here. It was, of course, to promote health and enable healthier lifestyle in the workplace among sedentary workers aged 45 to 64. Since we stopped working at 65 in Denmark. And the specific aim of the planning was to explore and describe how participants experience their physical activity, their healthy dieting and social support, as well as how they describe their needs, their motivation and suggestions for changes. Of course, with regard to the 3 points mentioned before. And for the outcomes, it was to explore and describe how participants experienced their participation in this 12-week program with group-tailored workshops, and how they describe afterwards and experience possible changings towards the 3 mentioned areas. And then it was also to measure, which Anton will talk about, the effect on the 3 outcomes as well. We used a model of intervention based on the theory and evidence focusing on the efficacy in tailoring programs through exploration of participants' perspective, and only on their perspective. No information, no scary campaigns, but their perspective on lifestyle habits and their motivation for change. This is new in Denmark to have this very own focus, so this is part of the innovative thing about our model. The tailored programs were aiming at empowering the participants' competences for action and for their feelings of self-efficacy. And the initial exploration and participants' descriptions It ended up in 4 workshops, which you see here. We have 3 workshops, and they had different focuses. 2 on physical activity and 2 on healthy dieting. The recruitment and the information procedure was like I think all others did, like meeting with the managers. In this case, the company is called Emerson. They have a lot of sedentary workers, which was why we chose this place for our study. And we of course presented the study, the aim and the time schedule. And then we also produced leaflets with informed consent about the project, and it was distributed to potential participants. We recruited, which means not we, but the workplace recruited 18 sedentary workers, and then we had this procedure you see here. First of all, the focus group interviews, and then the IPAC, which Anton will talk about, and we made a data analysis of this. And in the focus groups, the participants defined the lifestyle habits and their motivation for change. We had a 12-week period of workshops, the 4 workshops you saw before, and then we again did a focus group interview, and we again did this IPAC questionnaire, followed by data analysis. And then there were 12 weeks without programs, followed by the questionnaire again, but this time no focus group. The design we used for planning and for follow-up on the interventions was an explorative and phenomenological design. We did the data collection with 2 semi-structured focus group interviews consisting of themes for discussion. Data analysis was done by meaning condensation. And here just some results from the interviews in headlines, the baseline results. It was stressed by participants that they would like to have a friendly kick. It was important for them for making choices that they had this friendly kick and a smile now and then. And their wishes for healthier dieting at lunch and during the day was also present. They would like to eat together more, they would like more fruit, and they would like more healthy snacks. Regarding physical activity, it had to be easy to join, they said, accessible, optional, flexible, and it had to take place nearby or inside the workplace. They would like outdoor activities, they would like dancing, they would like walking. And then they also suggested a group coordinator, or you can say one holding the rope. After the interventions, after the 4 workshops I showed you before, they have these quotes. In general, they have increased their physical activity. Now everybody walks every day. In the lunch break, it's formalized. They have a daily reminder from colleagues, and everyone is welcome. There is a pickup in the reception. They also made diet changes and weight loss. They had this workshop called Small Steps, and they find it very usable and helpful to count calories and have a logbook on what they eat and when they eat. They got new habits, they say, and some of them have even boycotted the restaurant or the canteen. So, and now they have no cakes at work. And these daily walking groups is perceived as the most, you can say, successful outcome of this 12-week period. There are 3 different walking groups, one for 10 minutes, one for 20, and one for 30 minutes. And you can see the difference here in how they walk and how they have their lunch together with the walk or afterwards. And speed has increased over the last 12 weeks. They agree about that. And I think it's very strong, this part saying we only walk because we are a group. And here they are, some of them. And conclusions and recommendations regarding this part is that, of course, this is a very small number of participants. It's a no randomized selection of participants, and the absence of the control group do not, of course, allow measuring interventions' effect. However, we have done a small statistical thing, even though. There are some strengths as well. The intervention is strongly based on theory. It is participant-driven and employs multiple and mixed methods in data analysis. And the intervention was implemented by an interprofessional team which have specific skills in research as well as knowledge in the area of health promotion at the workplace. We have some recommendations, of course, and health promotion at the workplace should be, we think, theory-driven, evidence-based, and involve participants' perspective and motivation for change of their lifestyle habits. And the current design, we think, seems very relevant and feasible, and of course it has to be tried out again, and we are about to plan this. The study and its method should, of course, undergo more testing before recommendations for application, and moreover, we have been asked for an economical estimation. We have presented this model of intervention at congresses, and we have been asked by politicians and researchers to estimate this economically, so that we can, of course, say something about how much money does this cost to implement in your workplace. Thank you.
Gracias. Muchas gracias. Y a continuación, Florian Meissner.
No, Anton.
No, we agreed that I will sacrifice this presentation because we don't have much time, and tomorrow we'll present it.
Then you will, then they will not hear about the IPAC and the evidence and everything. Okay, well.
Okay, gracias. Florian Meissner.
Bien, pasamos a hablar que hable Florian. He comes from a private company, Vital Services, which promotes health, especially the work in Germany.
Hello everybody. Hello everybody. First I have to say sorry about my bad English. I try my best and I hope you understand me. Something about Saxony. Saxony is in Germany, in the southeast of Germany, and we are the oldest region in Germany. What you see here, we have 3 big cities in our Free State. It's Leipzig, Dresden, and Chemnitz. And where you see in 2025, the cities have no problem with demographic problem with, but the rural regions we have a problem. People older than 65 are 30-60%, and these are the both regions on the bottom and on the right corner. And our reference region is the region down in the bottom. What we know additionally, 27% of our workforce going in retirement before retirement age, and the average age is 55. It's a big problem for us because in the rural regions we have not enough workforce, qualified workforce, and so our problem is if they are ending up with their job so early, we have no possibilities to get enough staff for our companies. In the rural regions, I've shown. At this point, 99% of the small and medium-sized enterprises know this, and they want to do something for their co-workers. 36% of the small enterprises have a health management system, and 9% plans to do something like this. 40%, and this is also a problem, have no knowledge about it and have no idea what they should do. So our aim is not to do something for the health management system. We want to do something for the health management program, and here's a difference for us between the risk management to reduce risk for health and to optimize health resources, health promotion. And so our aim was to optimize health resources and to get something to reduce barriers and to optimize some possibilities to do a better physical activity. It had nothing to do with do more sports or something like this. Forbidden is nothing, but you could do something else better, and so it's better for your health. It's one of the point, it's very urgent. In the summary, we have 55 participants in our program. They are working in small enterprises, and we have done assessments before and after intervention of a biofunctional status and the IPEC. After this, our coaches have done in 10 workshops, in 10 units, in 8 weeks, some workshops with little groups of 5 to 7 persons. After this intervention, after this 8 weeks, we have done also the assessments, and we wanted additionally to support the companies to build up something like a management system like this. This is our design of the study. We have 3 groups: intervention group 1, intervention group 2, and the control group. The control group got no intervention, and the difference between intervention group 1 and 2 is the building of the groups is another. So I showed it. The first group is we have divided in unmotivated people, prepared people, and active people to change something on their lifestyle. The second group was grouped in a shift work system. The early shift, the late shift, and the night shift was put together in one group, where we had no context to motive to the status of a motivation or something like this, and the control group. Our assessment, the biofunctional status, is an assessment. It's a during of 1 hour, and we are measuring 45 parameters. And with these parameters, it's all dimension of physical, mental, social, and psychosocial dimensions, and we are measuring it and look it for in correlation with the age. So we could say on these parameters like this, you are so old like an 45-old man. If you are 50 years old, it's not so good. If you are 40, it's a better way. So you have a direct correlation between the biofunctional age and the chronological age as an indicator, as an index about performance of the health status of these people. It's something like a functional age. What you are seeing here is the parameters and the protocol for the individuum. You see the green points is are the strengths of the people, where they are better than their age class. On the red points, you see where are health resources, where they could do something else to promote their own health situation. And on the last page, where we calculate the biofunctional age and in correlation to the chronic age. So what are the results of our program? Now I'm showing you the differences in the biofunctional age for these 3 groups. You have to know if you are measuring the biofunctional status after 8 weeks, you have to calculate the learning effect, and the learning effect is in 8 weeks by 3 years. You have to calculate 2. And so you see in intervention group 2 and control group it has nothing done. In intervention group 3 you have good result because from the 53 years to 47 years, it's a good difference of 6 years, and you are different. You're dividing it with the 3 years of the learning effect, and you could say in 8 weeks you have 3 years younger. And so it's a good indicator in a good sense that our intervention group 1 is a good strategy to get a better physical activity. Second says we are looking in the IPEC and calculated the meds, and so you see it's the same. Only intervention group 1 shows positive effects, something like this. And the last point in the assessments are now we have a question of the type of motivations we want to get with the assessment. And it's not possible to get some information about the information with a questionnaire, because we have a problem with the social correctness. Sure, I want to do something more with it, but I don't know like what I have to do and something else. This is what we are getting in the practice, and so you could use the information about the type of motivation not to build up the groups, and we have built up the groups with the physical indicators. And so the groups are better designed, because here it's no relation between the physical activity. What are the conclusions? The circumstances are the best in Germany to get in health management systems. The biggest barrier for companies is the lack of knowledge how to do it. A bigger problem is the allocation problem. Get everybody the right program for his motivation or for his way of thinking. Do we want to do something more sports or something or like this? The motivation problem. This is the problem to get the right target group in a group. If you're doing an individual program, it's not the problem. You could coaching it one-to-one, so it's not the problem. But if you're doing it in a group, everybody in this group should have the same motive, should have the same status for the coaching. So this is what we are getting on this program. And the third point is we have to do more demand and setting orientated programs, and they have to put up in a strategy for a healthier company, for a better workplace promotion or something like this. It has to be for a longer way to show, and not only to do one intervention and everything is good. And so we have the way of thinking of us is companies need external support for the implementation and administration of workplace health management system. They need no support for the interventions themselves, where you have any services in Germany to get it from your insurances or something else, but to build up the health management system for the orientation on the needs and on the setting. This is the problem, I think, and so that's what it is.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias, Florian. Y ahora Rosa Juárez and David Howitt vienen los dos de Suffolk y van a contar la experiencia, los resultados del proyecto en Inglaterra.
Thank you, Antonio, and hello everyone. My name is Rosa Juárez and this is David Howitt, and I'm the project manager based in Suffolk County Council in the public health team, and David is our project coordinator, and together we're going to talk you through our presentation very quickly. So in Suffolk you can see 22% of our population are over 65, 10% have no qualifications. Life expectancy is in the top 10 for the UK, so it's quite good. 70% of people feel healthy, that's self-reported data, and 27% are unemployed. So we just have some facts there to give you an idea. So the question that we're posing is, does feeling healthy equal being healthy? And you have there some facts. For example, 17% binge drink. And I don't think it's an expression you have in Spanish, but it basically means drinking way too much in a small period of time. So you have there again 17% reporting that they experience a mental health problem. And in Suffolk alone, we have 3 people dying each day from a smoking-related illness, which is a real tragedy. So we have some more information here, and it's basically the same message about demographic change that is similar across Europe. So by 2030, the over 60s will outnumber the population that's under 15. So we have that inverted pyramid. So local interventions, there are a number of things going on that Elspeth mentioned earlier in Suffolk. So I won't bore you too much with the context of it. But we have a number of initiatives, and in England, public health used to be with the National Health Service, and it's now moved to local government, where it initiated. So this is a big change, because it basically means that people in public health can speak to people in planning, can speak to people in social services, and that we're all a lot more integrated and working more closely together. So we've got a couple more facts here, and this is where I'll hand over to David quickly.
Okay, so this is pretty self-explanatory. This is just the cost to the employer. So we're looking at £840 is the average cost of employee per year, and so it's in the institution's best interest to initiate health interventions sooner rather than later, which has obviously got its benefits for the employee but also the employer. And 29% of companies are now reporting the average age of the employee to be on the rise, and this is a very important contextualized idea for our intervention. So this is the premise of the health questionnaire. This is what we've introduced throughout Suffolk. It's a browser-based tool, which the idea of which is very simple. Employees go online, they complete their questionnaire. It generates a customized personal health report, and this covers psychological, physiological, occupational health, with a lot of subcategories within that. Generated aims customized to the individual depending on how they've completed the questionnaire, and advice on how to and then the ability for the individual to select a goal, and then have tailored advice on how to achieve that goal step by step.
So I just want to draw a distinction here. You've heard from some of our other European partners, and you've seen photographs. Many of them have done what we call face-to-face interactions, or interventions which take place actually people talking to people, and in many cases coaches talking to groups of people. Our intervention in Suffolk was slightly different in that it was, as David has explained, based on the internet. So there was a piece of software that we made available to employees in local businesses in Suffolk, and this was a website basically where an individual could voluntarily log in, create a profile based on a number of very basic health questions such as weight, height, cholesterol, physical activity levels, etc. And then you had generated a very personalized set of recommendations about things that maybe you're doing very well. So in the first instance, it was about recognizing, yes, you're doing enough physical activity, or yes, you're getting enough sleep, so the positives. And then looking at, okay, so what else can we work on? What else might you like to improve? But it was very much from a positive approach, so we weren't pointing out deficiencies straight away. We were just recommending and highlighting things that could be improved. So at this stage you'll see, for example, one of the very first things we asked participants to define was how they described good health. And I know, again, we've had a number of definitions of good health. In this case, we wanted to emphasize really that health is subjective, and that it very much depends on the perspective of the individual, because there are people who think having no symptoms of illness is good health. And we wanted to leave that open to people to interpret for themselves. And the other thing there was about trying to tap into the motivation and understand the motivation of people from the premises of, what do you believe determines your health? And again, you can see on there, is it something external, or is it about me and my choices? So this ties in again with what we've heard from a number of colleagues. And here you'll see an example of a person and their report. In this case, they're getting 97%, which is quite good. But again, I just want to say here, this isn't a score saying, yes, you're 97% healthy. In fact, it's not that. It's saying you're managing your health 97% well. So you could have a number of chronic or long-term conditions, asthma, diabetes, any other number of things, and still score very highly if you're reporting that you're managing those things with good nutrition, with physical activity, or with any other coping mechanism. So you'll just see here on the right there, there's emphasizing all the things that you're doing well, and then priority points for action. And on any of those points you could say, learn more, and it opens up a whole series of detail, and really it's kind of like a newspaper in this case, because you can go in as much or as little as you want. And at this stage you'll see some of the opportunities following on from the report, where it invites the individual really to create a goal for themselves. And it's got lots of free text space there, so it's not predetermined. Again, pick an area that you are ready to change in. So if I filled this out and said, I smoke, which I don't, but if I said, okay, I smoke, and that's not something I want to change, then the tool is not going to say, stop smoking, stop smoking, stop smoking. In fact, it will say, okay, you're a smoker, that's not good, we all know that, but move on and choose something perhaps that you do feel ready to change, like doing more physical activity. And the psychology behind the tool is, eventually I will get to a point where smoking is making it difficult for me to continue being physically active. And at that point it will invite me to reassess myself and see whether now I'm ready to change my smoking habit. The other side of this tool is really for the employers, for the management. And this is where some of the employees who did this, I think, maybe were a little bit suspicious, because is my employer going to look at this and say, oh, better fire them, better get rid of them quick because it's going to be expensive? And I want to just say again, it wasn't about that. All the information was anonymous, and it was really for the organization, for the company, and for the management to think about, okay, well, if I have a population of employees which has obesity issues, then maybe it's really in my benefit, in my convenience, to start doing some specialized interventions there looking at obesity in a way, of course, that is sensitive and fair and voluntary, and not linking any of this to what we call performance or appraisals. So it's not in any way, because you score a certain way here, it wouldn't be linked there to your performance at work, and that was very important for us. It's more to provide the organization with information that empowers them to do something about the health of their employees, recognizing as well that managers are also employees. So here's some of our preliminary analysis, and I'll just hand over to David here.
Okay, so this is very preliminary quantitative analysis. This is mainly statistics produced by Excel. They're currently being analysed by our partner university in Suffolk, and they'll be with us shortly. But as it stands, this is what we've derived so far. So we've found that 90% of the people who complete the initial assessment go on to complete 4 weeks of coaching and develop a self-specified goal, and they make good progress towards that. So we found something which was quite interesting, that there's a positive correlation between self-reported stress and job satisfaction. Now this might be because people aren't willing to, if their managers are looking at the data, to report anything but satisfaction in their work. But as it stands, we've found this positive correlation that as stress increases, so does self-reported job satisfaction, which is quite interesting. And with regards to male participants, 84% of them demonstrated a significant improvement, greater than females, after implementing the Health Manager tool and making these goals and taking steps towards them. And the most poignant out of all of these statistics is that 28% decrease, at least in the initial analysis, of absenteeism, which is significant.
Okay, and just coming to the end of it, we also wanted to, in the way that our Danish colleagues have done, get the people's experience of the tool, and so we did a focus group, and these are some of the themes, some of the big ideas that came out of that. people thought the tool was very good as a stock take. And what that means is, somebody said, for example, you don't go to the doctor unless something is wrong with you. So to do this questionnaire at a time when you're normal is really interesting, and it gives you a general idea of how you're doing. And you can see one person here saying, I think it was a good eye-opener. Even if you think you're fit and healthy, you suddenly realize that maybe you're not eating quite the right things. I think it may be good for people as a stock taking type activity. And highlighting, for example, oh, I haven't had my cholesterol checked recently. That might be something I could look into. The other big theme that emerged was the tool's detail, the amount of detail that was in there. And someone's pointed out that actually it takes 10 to 15 minutes to fill out, which isn't a very long time. But at the end of it, like I explained in terms of the layers, there's quite a lot that you can get from the tool, and you can focus on nutrition or on smoking cessation or on any other area which is of interest. So we were pleasantly surprised that people welcomed that. The other last thing here, and this is perhaps more relevant to the panel that was previously, was about the tool being used in workplace settings. And a number of people said, you know, you have a captive audience, people are sitting at their desk, they're in front of a computer, they have the opportunity to fill them out. People are getting different scores and they're comparing, which is all positive if you think of us as competitive people, as competitive humans. The other side of this was a couple people saying, well, you know, when I was in a job, it was really stressful, I was really busy, and the last thing, and they've said here, I think I would have been quite cynical, because I would think it's just the employer wanting to keep me healthy so I can keep on working really hard. And so that's, you know, the other side of the coin, shall we say, that if you're in a workplace setting, that people can feel, are they just doing this so that I continue working for them, you know, really hard into my old age? And this is where we come across some of the policy issues in terms of raising the retirement age and things like that. But I just wanted to highlight those themes, really. So what next for us? There will be further analysis, both quantitative and qualitative, and we will produce reports both for people and also for the organization. And really, as project manager for the project overall, it's about sharing what has worked and what hasn't worked for different interventions. So tomorrow we're going to be looking at the criteria that was developed by our colleagues here at the Andalusian School of Public Health, and looking what commonalities or differences we share across the interventions. So I just want to say thank you very much, first of all, to our colleagues here for having us and inviting us, and for this beautiful and lovely event, and also for your patience and your attention. Thank you very much.
Gracias.
And finally, we will be listening to Katia Corona from the Italian Olympic Committee. It's going to make a presentation.
I would speak about our Italian experience in the project progress implemented in our smaller region, Molise. Molise region is a 20th region of Italy, with 3,012 inhabitants. About the regional context, Molise, these graphs divided the population by age groups. The largest for men and also for women, it's between 45 and 15 years. And also with the women live longer than the men. In Italy, people retiring after 40 years of working, and the maximum age for retirement is 67 years. About our intervention to achieve the goal of a project, in this project have worked many people. We have developed a multidisciplinary work by identifying 4 areas: geriatric area, nutrition area, psychological area, and the physical activity area. Each area's work has been done on the basis of their competence and skills, and each area has produced many results. The participants are enrolled in 60 communes of Region Molise, and they are approximately 200, out of which 75% are women, 25% are men, 25% between 45 and 68 years old, but 25% over 68 years old. The group of nutritionists investigated about the nutrition habits of participants through a self-monitored test about breakfast, type of breakfast, about consumption of red and white meat, about consumption of fish and of dairy products, food consumed, and fruit and vegetable. The conclusion are that the majority of the sample have a nutritional breakfast and have a regular consumption of red and white meat, while the consumption of fish is not enough. The consumption of fruit is insufficient, while the consumption of vegetables is higher. The consumption of dairy products is excessive. Cheeses rich in saturated fat, mozzarella and mature cheese are consumed more than low saturated fat cheeses, ricotta and cheese cream cheese. There is high consumption of dessert, with a dessert being consumed almost every day. The sample examined were following part of the OMS guidelines: prefer to use olive oil to animal fat, consume complex carbohydrates daily, thanks to the culture of a Mediterranean diet, and consume vegetables every day, several times a day. The sample examined who don't follow in part the OMS guidelines consume excessive amount of cheese and dairy products rich in saturated fat, consume a little quantity of fish, and consume too many simple sugar every day. About the role of physical activity in older adults, I speak about our experience. The aim of our works was to investigate the effect of a program of physical activity on the level of physical efficiency and the general state of health in a group of about 200 older adults. They agreed to participate in a 32 weeks exercise program based on improvement of aerobic fitness, range of motion, muscle strength and stretching. Exercise program differ in dosage, frequency, intensity and duration. The physical condition is monitored through the questionnaire, such as subjective questionnaires to indicate about the comorbidity of the participant, major osteoarticular, neurological and psychological diseases. Questionnaires such as SF36 and specific motor tests. The fitness is utilized the fitness senior test. These tests and questionnaire that are performed at the beginning and the end of the physical activity period. About results at the beginning of the project are have enrolled approximately 200 participants, but have completed the course only 53 participants, including 11 men and 42 women. The subject questionnaire indicates that participant has a very high number of comorbidities, including cardiovascular, osteoarticular, neurological, and physiological diseases. In general, the SF36 results about men show a clear improvement in all the items. Conversely, there is an improvement in women only regarding 3 sections. In general, the data of motor tests show improvement in both men and women. In particular, in women improves the data in the sit and reach test. This slide represents the graphs and the images of each motor test. Arm curl, testing upper body strength and endurance, chair stand test, assesses leg strength and endurance, 6-minute walk test, measures aerobic fitness, and sit and reach test measures the flexibility of lower back and hamstring muscle. Back stretch test and 8 feet up and go. Conclusion: high priority for many older adults is to remain as independent as possible in their daily activities for as long as possible. Participation in a regular exercise program is an effective intervention or modality to reduce or prevent a number of functional declines associated with aging. The evidence also suggests that involvement in a regular exercise can also provide a number of psychological benefits related to preserved cognitive function, alleviation of depression symptoms and behavior, and an improvement concept of personal control and self-efficacy. In this project, the psychologists evaluated the motivation and the perception of self-efficacy of the participant, and measure the importance that these 2 dimensions, motivation and self-efficacy, place in the choice and abandonment of sport activity. The psychological utilized the scale physical of self-efficacy, and the results are approximately 93% of the sample showed a positive assessment of self-efficacy. It's 194 of the 210 people who completed the questionnaire, while only 50 cases have a negative score. In particular, the items related to the perception of physical activity have found the highest scores. Unlike we found the lower scores in the physical items related to the self-presentation. In particular, most of the answer was strongly disagreed in I'm 70. I'm influenced by the impression that my body aroused the odor, which concerned the lack of security inter-physical. This result demonstrated a correlation between self-efficacy and sport. This finding have led to the second part of our work, where we suggested a series of exercises and experiences to allow a greater body relaxation and a greater awareness of their moods. For example, deep breathing exercise and exercise to energize the body. The aim was to give practical tools and to prevent anxiety or depression, on the assumption that physical activity itself is a tool to enhance physiological well-being. Participants with more self-efficacy have shown increased ability to focus, especially through the control of intrusive thought and proper management of environmental stressors, tending to accept the hazard of the competition, showing ready to face the inevitable moment of crisis. The belief of person efficacy appears to be the decisive factor for success in a variety of life contexts, strongly influencing the decision about the types of activity to be undertaken and the nature of the environment to attend. Overall conclusions: the final outcomes define the real progresses that the participants have made during their pathway, and physical activities is considered to be an important non-pharmacological approach in the prevention and the management of disease associated with aging. Despite the target group was characterized by a large number of comorbidity, we had an improvement. In order to guarantee the long-term effect, the physical activity should be regular, continuative, and promoted before the age of retirement. Following a healthy diet, along with physical activity, to preserving good health and to prevent diseases. It would be interesting in a future perspective a project to increase the involvement of people with lower self-efficacy. Thank you.
Right, I would like to thank the members of the panel and also those of you in the audience. We are quite late and I don't know if there are any questions, any urgent questions. If not, we can leave it here. We're going to publish in our website all presentations, and all of those of you who have registered with the session today, I'll be sending you information and the leads and the links to our program and more detailed information on the different components of the program, how we've done, how we've developed all the elements in the program. Thank you very much for your attention and for your participation. And also, I would like the interpreters thank the panel members for remembering us. Thank you. So I declare officially close this conference.